forward to all your tweets on our Twitter wall in the lobby area. I'd also like to request all of you to please click pictures at the photo booth and tag them using our hashtag ET Women in Tech as we look forward to yet another fantastic panel ahead of us on the STEM gender gap, inspiring a young generation of women. I'd like to welcome our panelists here on board with us, along with our moderator. A very, very warm welcome to Ms. Janvia Level, a principal, founder, and CEO at Ledger. A warm welcome to Ms. Holy Liu, co-founder, Kabam, Sindhu Gangadharan, Senior Vice President, Managing Director, SAP Labs India. May I also present you Ms. Tracy Kwa, Vice President, Marketing, Informatica. May I warmly welcome our moderator. Once again, joining us is Ms. Brenda Darden Wilkerson, President and CEO, AnitaB.org. Let's look forward to this discussion.
Welcome, everyone, to the Women in Tech Forum, Building a Sustainable, Equitable, and Digital Future. My name is Brenda Darden Wilkerson, President and CEO of AnitaB.org, an organization that connects, inspires, and strives for greater equality for women and technologists in business, academia, and government. So welcome today. We're excited to have you. With our goal to build a world of inclusive technology, at AnitaB.org, we envision a future where the people who imagine and build technology mirror the people and societies for whom they build it. I'm really excited for this conversation today. I'm joined by four amazing leaders. Genevieve Lavelle, founder and CEO of AgriLedger. Could you just introduce yourself really quickly?
Sure. Hi, I'm Genevieve, and I am the CEO, as you say, of AgriLedger, and we're building a blockchain solution to empower smallholder farmers and providing them access to market and also financial services. And the other thing that we look to do is to really bring with us more individual in getting them education and knowledge into the technology so that they can continue and it can be sustainable in its delivery.
It's very important. Thank you so much and welcome. Next, we have Holly Liu, who is the co-founder of Kabam. Holly, can you tell us a little bit about Kabam?
Yeah, sure. So Kabam was a mobile gaming company that built games for a lot of Hollywood IP franchises such as Marvel, Contest of Champions, The Hobbit, Fast and Furious. If it was PG-13, we probably built a franchise for it. We actually sold in 2017. And since then, I actually won an Abby Award. I'm not sure if you knew that, Brenda. And I also ended up doing early seed stage investing at Y Combinator as well as Mozilla. And now I write a newsletter for founders at foundermusings.substack.com.
That is great. That's awesome. Can't wait to hear more. So next we have Sindhu Gangadharan. She is the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of SAP Labs India. Can you tell us a little bit about why you're here today, Sindhu?
First of all, thank you so much, Brenda, for having me here on this panel. I think it's a rather very special moment, I have to say, to be here with all of you, very powerful and extremely inspiring women. If you ask me, Brenda, talking about the STEM gender gap, I think the skewed gender ratio in science and technology, we'd all agree is rather disappointing, right? Because on one hand, we've had visionaries like Marie Curie, who is the only person, if you ask me, who's received 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 scientific fields, and back in 1900s. On the other hand, we are still, unfortunately, still seeing a lot of women shying away from pursuing exciting careers in STEM, even in developed countries for that matter. So it's a topic that's very close to my heart and really looking forward to debate a little bit with this team here.
That's so awesome. Welcome. I'm looking forward to it as well. And finally, we have Tracy Kwa, Vice President of Marketing at Informatica. And Tracy, can you give us a little bit of information about you?
Sure. Thank you very much, Brenda. And to all participating esteemed women leaders, it's my honor to be on this panel today with very highly accomplished entrepreneurs and corporate leaders. I cover marketing for Asia Pacific and Japan and Informatica. I am successful only because I'm supported by a dynamic team of great collaborators and high achievers with diversity in the team. At Informatica, our passion and investments have created wave after wave of helping customers to drive their data-driven digital transformation. And I'm really excited to be on the panel today to really share how we can drive more diversity in the STEM as well as the tech field. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Tracy. And, I look around the screen and I wish we were together someday, right? We can perhaps be in the same space together, but I'm really proud and I'm excited for everyone to get to hear from each and every one of you. So let's get started. So Genevieve, can you speak to how working in tech can be an innovative career source?
Oh, of course. I mean, it's so freeing because to me, technology, it's about the possibility. It is not linear. I happen to have actually studied biochemistry as a career. And I found that technology is very much about trial and error. And sometimes you don't get what you expect, but then you learn so much more because you keep repeating and eventually you get to the answer. And I think that also what we forget about, it's also a lot of collaboration. It's mediation to get others to actually understand. And I think key to technology to me is really getting to what's in it for each of the participants. And when we talk about blockchain technology or distributed ledger technology, it's allowing individuals to participate in an ecosystem in a way that they then can allow each other to trust one another and know that from a regulatory aspect, they can always go back and look at what has gone on. So it was really, I just came back from Haiti, and on my last full day, I spent an afternoon, which was supposed to be 1 hour lunch, ended up being a 5-hour discussion with the women. And believe me, it was only 2 men and 15 women in the room talking about how you could now use this for the whole aspects of conflict resolution and arbitration, so that we can actually have those issues be presented and you would have data-based information and provide the ability for the complaints to be done by a video loop and provide a very inexpensive way to do dispute resolution. So to me, there's so much possibility. And that meant really for them to start understanding the technology, buying into the changes that you're able to do to processes with technology. And that's the piece that I find most exciting about working in tech.
Yeah, so true. I mean, the creative nature of what we can do in tech is really boundless. And that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure more women and girls know about it and are excited about it.
Yes.
So Holly, your company is all about fun. So can you talk to us about how tech can build on fun? We need fun these days, right?
Yeah, so much fun all around. So I think what's kind of very interesting about games is the whole core of a game should be fun. And there's different types of fun for different type of people. There's definitely the competitive, there's an escaping, relaxing. I personally love those kind of games, or I like to call them cleaning games or Zen games. They're like the farming ones. And then there's the ones where you go and attack. Me too. I even love the puzzle games because it just gives me some time to relax. But that is kind of a form of fun, right, for all of us. And I do feel like in the world of technology, even if you're not in gaming, there's so many ways where technology in many ways already leverages fun. And it's kind of small things. And I know Steve Jobs had talked about this, about just moments of delight, right? I think Google famously does a lot of these great little doodles on their search page to not only be informative, but fun, especially when commemorating some special people. Even our inbox in so many ways, I feel like is very much a game. I know so many people who want to get it to inbox 0 or making sure that their inbox is clean. in many ways kind of a cleaning break. And I do feel like if we can infuse those bits of fun, it'll be so much better for the user to also give them a break. I highly recommend, if you're building in tech that isn't a place, I highly recommend two things where if it's not a place of a gaming company, but it's something else, I highly recommend the first thing is to think about, in gaming, we call them core loops. You know, what is the loop? What is the action that the user wants to take? What is the trigger? And there's some really great work by BJ Fogg on kind of behavior as well as action and triggers, and kind of what are those things, and really think about it from the user perspective. So kind of thinking and mapping out your product a little bit in loops, that's probably the first thing. And then the second thing I highly recommend is, now with everything moving into the cloud, you can actually measure and see fun. You can measure and see quote unquote love. One of the things in our industry, particularly gaming, is previously to our company, as well as other companies such as Zynga and all these mobile games that have these great in-app purchases. Before, the gaming industry was very much like the movie industry. You just bought a cartridge or a console, and once you opened that up, particularly in the US, you couldn't take it back. So that's very much like watching a movie where you just pay for the tickets up front. And it didn't matter whether or not you liked the movie, you're not going to get your money back. No matter how many times you watched the movie, it was going to be the same ending. And believe you me, there were so many religious fights within game makers about what is fun, because all these designers were sitting around the table, and it was what I thought was fun. But what's really great with everything moving into the cloud, with mobile gaming, you can actually measure and see fun. Meaning, we always used to say, look, if people didn't come back, we're going to assume that it wasn't fun. So we spent so much time looking at our retention metrics, and that's probably another thing I would highly recommend if you're really sitting there trying to measure a lot of the fuzziness. I feel like, hey, if people don't come back, maybe it wasn't useful enough, or maybe it wasn't a problem that you're solving that is frequent enough, or they just didn't like the product. So I feel like looking at retention is incredibly helpful on things. So those are probably two things I recommend if you're trying to build fun inside your product and company.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that inbox, and that's sort of a touchy point for me, because I have lots of zeros after a number. And
no, not so good.
You know what I mean? Sort of a swap. But anyway, I digress. Thank you. So important. Sindhu, would really like to hear how we can inspire more young women to get into STEM. We've heard that sometimes they're reluctant. You know, why do you think that is, and what can we do about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brenda. And before I dive into any kind of statistics, I think it's important that we also identify the factors that contribute to a little bit of this disturbing trend, right, and kind of deter women from pursuing a career in STEM. Firstly, if I just reflect back on in several developing countries, including India, but as we go into the rural areas of the country, right, girls and many of the young women do not even have access to quality education and also the necessary guidance in order to pursue a career in advanced fields like STEM. And I also feel that many times they also don't have enough role models for many of these young women to look up to and also take inspiration from them when it comes to STEM related careers. Secondly, I think it's also important, and I think we'll all agree to that, the women who do join careers in STEM, sometimes, and we don't have to generalize it, they do face discrimination at the workplace. It's still very much predominantly a male dominated industry. And when I talk about discrimination, it can be in terms of pay, it can be in terms of equal opportunities, it can be in terms of respect, it can be in terms of treatment at your workplace, and so on. And another important factor which also impacts a lot of the women is, and which possibly is not spoken about many times, is family and peer pressure, right? Which sometimes was also discouraging them in pursuing a very high rewarding career in STEM. And on that same note, while it's easy to recognize the more popular biases that possibly many of us talk about, disparity in pay, and there are also many of the invisible biases which sometimes women tend to face at work. For instance, I just want to quote this example, right, of this first all-female spacewalk, which was scheduled to happen in March 2019, and I'm sure some of you know about it. This was cancelled because clearly because of the reason that they were lacking spacesuits to fit the women crew, believe it or not. And it was so unfortunate because traditionally these spacesuits were designed for a male physique. And so the result of that, the women who could get into those suits and fit into it, they made it. But one of the women crew lost the opportunity and was replaced by her fellow male astronaut. So this is just one of those instances that really showcases common but still less discussed experiences that women in STEM face. And these are all contributing factors to kind of that gender gap that exists. And if I just reflect back at what I do at SAP, I have to say I'm extremely fortunate and also very proud to be part of an organization where gender equality is at the core of our business operations. If you just look at of how the people first strategy in place, and if you just look at it from the lens of female employees, we are all encouraged and given the right opportunities to take up our roles in senior management. If I just reflect also on my role here at Labs India, we have 37% of our women in the category of 0 to 4 years of experience in the junior levels, right? And as we go up, we're talking about 22% women in the mid management section, which is about 4 to 8 years of experience, and 18% in the senior management roles. And additionally, what we're also very proud of, Brenda, is initiatives like Code Unnati. And Code Unnati is a corporate to citizen digital literacy and IT skills development initiative, which is really aimed at fostering that digital inclusion, which is so much important in right here in India. And we're using also Code Unnati to really help promote these young girls, young women in general in STEM. And the idea is very simple, right? We use these initiatives to also inspire young girls, particularly, like I said at the beginning, from the weaker socioeconomic backgrounds, right? Because in the metros, that's not an issue at all. In fact, it's brimming with great examples and great role models. But as we move into the rural areas, this is where programs like Code Unnati helps us, because what we're doing is we build those skill sets into those modules to help young women to take up careers in STEM, giving them also access to even deep tech, be it Internet of Things or data visualization, or even in specific modules, even programming language support, be it in Python or C or C++, JavaScript, and many others. And we're also partnering with a lot of the industry bodies here, like Niti Aayog, the Atal Innovation Mission, where we're really looking at STEM education, mainly focused on the secondary school children, girls, particularly across India. So if you ask me, all in all, yes, there are challenges, but I truly believe that we should be even doing more as an industry to really close this gap in the STEM fields for all the women out there.
Yeah, it's so true. And, I really am, have a lot of admiration for your company having the concept of getting more women in and equality at its core, because it can't be separate, it can't be secondary, and then because then it won't count. And so that's such a great example that your company is setting, and we hope that other companies will follow as well. So thank you so much for that. Okay, Tracy. So we heard that there are challenges, and we know there are challenges. We're women, we've seen them, we've lived it. But how can everyone be an advocate for women in tech? How can we all make sure that the women that are in tech stay, right? That they have that advocacy?
Right. And Brenda, this is a really fantastic question, because companies today are at an inflection point in the tech world. And for many women in the high-tech workforce, it's about drawing a line in the sand, advocating, speaking up, and learning how to navigate the industry to create a niche for themselves, There are 4 ways I would like to share with everyone today that we could be advocates, right? Women advocates in the tech world. Firstly, is to advocate for a more conducive environment, such as flexi time around childcare, elder care, extended maternity leave, or even time off can be invaluable to women in tech who are trying to do it all to support, including their child at home with e-learning. The COVID-19 crisis has driven as many as 2 million women, as we all read from recent studies by McKinsey, particularly mothers with young children, to consider leaving the workforce or stepping back from their careers. Secondly, advocate for respect. And as what Sindhu and everyone have shared, is that it's important for women to succeed, and they need to make sure that the opinions are respected, their struggles are being understood and addressed. The next thing I would like to suggest is to advocate for the next generation and be a mentor. It's important for women to seek a mentor both within the organization as well as outside of the organization, as both bring different perspectives and objectivity to their guidance. And fourthly, to advocate to provide growth and development opportunities for women. And as we heard from Sindhu from SAP, there are so many programs that they are already advocating diversity in the organization. And for the rest of us, the other organizations, we need to be intentional to have diverse representation. And gender diversity is not a woman's problem to solve. Top-down executive support, employee participation, male allies are very critical success factors to make sure that this works. By giving women the opportunity to thrive in the workplace, as we all know, will make the entire business grow and succeed. And also with more women in leadership positions, it helps to create a culture of openness. Women bring their energy, and diversity will truly help to foster a more creative, collaborative environment. So whether it's through mentorship, advocacy, empowerment, women in STEM and tech must continue to speak up for themselves and encourage conversations around equality and respect.
That is so true. I mean, I'm over here just trying to stay in my seat, you know. All of these things are so important. And just having, you know, this picture, I just keep looking at this picture of all of you as an example for women to be encouraged. And also I want to add in terms of advocacy, advocate for women who want to cross over from other careers into tech, because we need their experience too. And that opportunity should still be open to them as well. So this is so amazing. Okay, so Genevieve, how is representation important to your line of work? So the different representation and diversity, how's that important?
So with what I'm doing is I actually chose to go into agriculture, though I'm not an agriculturist myself. I'm a foodie. I love food. I know how crazy I get when I remember when I landed in Haiti, I hadn't eaten for almost 12 hours. I was miserable. I just couldn't deal. And having been brought up in a country, you know, I was born in Haiti. I've traveled all over. I've been in India. I've been in Africa, and I've seen what hunger does. And usually that's also an issue which is very much borne by the woman because she needs to feed her child. And so being able to create, you know, we forget that actually almost 60% of agricultural work is done by women. And that 60% is also the haircut that they take or the loss that they take in order to get access to cash first. So all these challenges, and many a time what will happen in, you know, in many of the smallholder farmers community, she will do the work and then the husband will be the one taking the money. So through a system such as blockchain technology, you can start using identity and providing her the ability to actually receive the funds herself. And we have also, there are plenty of reports out there which talks about the ingeniousness of someone who has money and make more money with that. So it's really giving them that opportunity to actually be able to actually progress. But to me, the other piece that I'm also working on is getting more women into the technology, to the blockchain technology. I'm actually putting together, and I will hope some of you can drop in. There is going to be a 2 days conference, and I'm getting the women in Haiti. We had a training where there was about 10 girls which received scholarship in Haiti. There was also 10 in South Africa from Consensus, and they were developers, but we wanted to get them to understand the blockchain technology so that they can then be able to understand it's beyond cryptocurrency. How can you actually make a fundamental difference in your world or the world of your country? And so these are women that then we see taking to a journey. So for me, I'm bringing them also to the world stage so that they can get an opportunity, not only for the training, but also for advancement. Because one of the things that I think has been, in my point of view, the blessing, if there can be any, of COVID, it has demonstrated that you can do your job from anywhere. All we need is adequate technology. So therefore, a woman can start her work if she needs to at 6 o'clock, start at 7, get her kids ready for school, get them out, do from 9 to 12, then do whatever she needs to do, and do the rest if she needs to between 8 and 12. We no longer need to have a clock ticking in. And this is the other thing that we also need to make sure that we empower them to actually make that conversation. So communication. So for me, it's not enough to teach technology. It's also very important to teach communication, responsiveness, and how to basically draw the line. Because many a time we allow the line to be drawn for us. So we retract rather than we should put the line down and say, you have just crossed it. And these are the reasons why I'm not going to let you go through. And that is something that I was lucky enough that I got from my mom. And this is what I want to impart to the next generation. But I think it's also important, even though we talk about getting more women in STEM, I also think that though we need to make sure that we don't leave the boys behind, because the anger, if we do not get them at least into a playing field, the anger that they are going to feel is almost going to be, what we hear in the lores about the Amazon women. You're too strong, so now I need to take you down. So we need to make sure they're there, but also be empowered.
Yeah, it's so important to think about power. And, as you were talking, I was thinking about choices. Having this knowledge and being at these tables gives people more choices, which to me always translates to freedom. Just so important. So important. So thank you. So Holly, gaming is normally heavily male. Can you talk about the presence of girls and women in gaming and why we need more of them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I probably have a dirty little secret. I built a gaming company, but I'm not a gamer. And oftentimes I'll say that. And I think there's something fundamentally exclusionary about the word gamer. So traditionally how I grew up, and maybe many of you or some of you, is that gamers had a very specific term. When you think of the word gamer, do you think of a woman? Likely not. You're probably thinking of a man. And nowadays, you're probably thinking of them over the PC with maybe some Cheeto stained hands with its great chair and setup and LED lights behind them with a big boom mic. But for me growing up, gaming was in the form of controllers with consoles. And I think that has a lot of strangely systematic things. The first is, I remember I was in a women in gaming event, and this professor, she got on stage and she held up the controller and she said, "This is the most unusable thing I've ever seen." And I was like, oh, it's not just me. Where it was really, it isn't accessible to many people. And I think partly, it's partly because of what type of people have designed it, what kind of perspective really goes into it. And so there's so many ways in which where I think that the term and the industry together has been a bit exclusionary. It is one of the few entertainment fields, we call gaming interactive entertainment, that they actually tell fans that no, you can't be a fan. You can't be a gamer because you don't like StarCraft. You're not at this level in World of Warcraft. There's a certain type of game that you must play and be good at to be called a gamer. There's not really a word just for a general aficionado of it. And to me, that's like saying, oh, you're not a true movie fan unless you like rom-com or horror or action, and same with music. So it's one of those things that I think have been very, even down to who can enjoy this, has been quite, I'll just call it exclusionary in so many different ways. And I see this, it's changing over time, partly of several things, which I'll touch upon later, but there's this thing called esports, where people are now becoming what we call professional gamers. And that starts likening it to a little bit more like sports. And it's quite funny because to be a professional gamer, you actually peak probably around 21 because your finger speed actually slows down. So there is almost like, for gymnasts, there's a certain peak that does happen to compete professionally, because how quickly you could type on the keyboard is incredibly important to competing and everything. So with that distinction, you can now have professional athletes versus people who play for fun. So I do see that world changing. The second way I see the world changing is for the longest time, and I should probably write a book about this, about not being a gamer and building a gaming company, but like a lot of people would come up to me, and particularly women, and once they would find out I was working in the video gaming industry, they would first, of course, they would apologize. I'm like, you don't need to apologize. They'll be like, I'm so sorry, Holly. I just don't love games. Like, and I would turn to them and I'm like, how could you not love games? To me, this is how humans learn. The very first game we all learn is something we cannot remember. It's called peekaboo. And the baby at 6 months, when you cover your eyes and you open it, they're learning object permanence. So in my mind, I'm like, how could you not like games? And I would always tell them, it's because I don't think there's a game made for you yet. I think not only are fans, that the term is a bit exclusionary, and there's traditionally so many laden things, and I could probably spend another hour talking about so many issues within the gaming industry and kind of how it is, and even honestly how the Me Too movement before that was a predecessor called Gamergate movement, where a lot of underbelly of the internet would come out and really speak ill of women in gaming. And it was a very tough time, but it was a predecessor to the Me Too movement in so many ways. And what I really found was that with that, I think if we can get more representation within gaming and build games that is made for the people who say, I'm not a gamer, but I like to just play games, that I think can be incredibly like literally game changing in so many ways, because I just think that's how every human learns. I'm very, very hopeful for this next generation. I see the kids, they are on, especially now during the pandemic, on Minecraft, on Roblox. I look at, every generation brings in, like AOL brought in Comic Sans font for us. The next thing that they brought in, MySpace brought in like HTML coders. I feel like Roblox is bringing in game developers, starting at a very young age. And I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And of course, my background in education, I could talk all day about how amazing, how that's developing learners and people who will be our developers of tomorrow. So thank you so much for that. So Tracy, I want to ask you about how tech leaders and allies can encourage more, not only just young women, but women in general, because we won't talk about this gray. Anyway, what if I wanted to get in and I wasn't in? So how can tech women leaders encourage more women to join?
Sure. I think this is really excellent for us to really think about. And just going back to just starting from, I think I didn't really take too much about STEM until this session and realized that there's still a lot of female underrepresented. And to Genevieve's point as well is that not to leave the males behind as well, right? So the first thing I want to share is to expose young girls or even males to STEM, right? Correct any negative perceptions they develop at a young age. Help them to embrace the STEM subjects as they reach high school rather than avoiding the subjects. I think that in itself is that, encourage them to open up. What Informatica has done is that we've invested in a group of middle high school students to see them through to their college, to invest in their education. They are probably not coming from very too well-to-do background, but it's just to introduce to them about technology, about computer science, about things that they would never even thought about because their family couldn't afford. So I think that starting from young is important. And to your question in terms, how do we get more women right into STEM, into tech? Firstly, starting from providing internship, right, and job shadowing. Offer summer internships provide a chance for girls and women to learn more about the different possibilities in the STEM fields. Job shadowing programs or career days are also beneficial, and this can be done by the organization. Thirdly, is to serve as a mentor. I've started a Women in Data Leadership 2 years ago. Why I started that? Because no one taught me about the perils of the corporate world. I stumbled, I fell forward, backwards, sideways. Nobody told me there was a hole in there, and I fell right through. And the value of mentorship is just irreplaceable. Finding a mentor early can do wonders for building confidence and translating it into career satisfaction. And mentors have the capacity and capability to lead young people towards success. Teaming with a mentor is a strategy, career strategy to bring huge benefits, especially to women in unbalanced work environments, example like engineering. So I would say that in this Women in Data Leadership, we're encouraging women leaders because we believe that if you're in a position of influence, you have the power to make a difference. And you are the leader that you could be the one, right? And that change agent and change the next person's life because you invested your time in that person. Fourthly, sharing resources and educate. We are in an information-rich society. Every one of us have access to vast resources. It's online for any women that are interested in STEM fields, and these resources will present a tremendous opportunity to learn a great deal about different types of STEM professions. And this also gives them an informed starting point from which you want to grow, right? About switching maybe industry at a midpoint of their career. And as women become more prevalent in STEM careers, more and more young girls will begin to recognize the additional career opportunities open to them. And it also will become more evident to what they can offer the world.
So important what you say, and mentors, we would recommend that young women and not so young women reach out and seek your mentor. Ask people who you look up to, and ask more than one to make sure that you get that mentor. And because it is so important to have that evidence in your life or somebody speaking into your life holistically. I think someone else talked about the holistic approach. It's not just about the technical skills, it's the soft skills, it's the experience that's so very important. So thank you for that. So Sindhu, you've had this amazing career at SAP. You've had different ranks over the last 21 years, which congratulations, that is amazing. So what is your advice to fellow women who are seeking higher career levels? We talk about the decreasing number of women as we progress up. So what's your advice, and how can we foster more equality as women progress in senior management?
Yeah, I think, Brenda, if I may, will, right? If I just look back at some of the things that even Genevieve you mentioned, right? I was just reflecting as you were speaking in terms of kind of what was the turning point for me with regards to going into a career in technology, right? And that goes way back, and I have to say it goes to the foundation of how we are all raised as children. And I have to say I'm very fortunate to have been raised by very strong parents who had the same expectations to me that they had to both my brothers, right? And I think they just did it as a matter of fact. It was back then, there was no discussion of STEM or any of these discussions. It was just about, hey, they had very high aspirations for all of us, and kind of set the core value system of doing our best, working hard, having that quality in us that it's all about hard work, right? That was part of the core value system that I grew up with and continue to follow as an advice, if you may will. And I think that's important, right? You probably in many of the conversations you have, you see the success of people, but it comes with a lot of work, right? So there is no shortcut to the hard work, is what I would say. So be perseverant, be clear on where what is it that you want to get to. And I can only say, right, if you just look at the possibilities with technology, it's fascinating, right? We've heard some phenomenal stories from Holly about gaming, and just listening to her wants me to go back to having that zero inbox, or Genevieve, where she said, hey, I'm a foodie, but here I'm using technology to support agriculture. I think phenomenal examples. Or Tracy, when you said, how can we make sure that we mentor people? All this is important. And if I just look at how technology is transforming the way we work today, right? Until last year, did any of us imagine that we would work in a remote environment? But thanks to technology, it's business as usual. And for most of us, we are even more connected. See, all of us sitting here from different parts of the world, despite the pandemic. So I'd say, be it an individual or at an organization level, those who have really embraced technology and who've really kind of seen the fun you can have with it. And also, of course, there will be ways in which you can navigate through the system, as we've all done. I think it's important. And I go back to the core points. It's hard work. It's about perseverance. And it's most importantly having fun in what you do. Because if you have fun in what you do, then success is undoubtedly going to come your way, is what I would say.
That's so true. And what I see in all of you, which is, this has been an amazing conversation, is just an example of what it means to be a woman and bring your power into the role that you're playing. I have so much admiration for each and every one of you. Thank you so much for what you do. Unfortunately, we're out of time. This has been amazing. And I know that our viewers have enjoyed and been inspired as much as I have. So thank you so much. And just keep on being wonderful like you are, and an inspiration to everyone.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.